Welcome to another episode of Dirt Nap City, the podcast about interesting dead people. My name is Alex. I'm here with my friend Kelly. What's up, Kelly?
Hey, man. Good to see you. We're into 2026. Pretty solid. So far, this year's going pretty well. How's it going for you?
It's going good, but I noticed there's another person in the room here.
Oh, shoot.
And
who is that?
And this isn't common.
This is kind of like, you ever have one of those Zoom calls where like everybody shares the same Zoom account and then somebody else joins, and you're still doing your previous meeting, talking about the person that just joined? It's just like that.
Yeah, I guess.
This is my friend Matt.
Oh, hey, Matt.
Matt is somebody I have known since college. So I've known Alex since high school. Matt and I met. We played ultimate frisbee together. We've done a lot of mountain biking trips and camping and stuff like that together. But here's the secret thing about Matt. Matt is a extraordinary drummer, and he is also, I will say, probably in the top 3 of our fans. There's your mom, there's my mom, and then there's Matt. He's number 3.
Wow. And more than Alfred from Austin.
Well, it's a toss-up between those guys, I have to say. But Matt actually has randomly called me. And here's the thing. Today, nobody talks on the phone. You don't get phone calls from very many people. Usually it's a text or an email. He's called me, and I'm like, oh, man, I hope nothing's wrong. I hope he's okay. Right, yeah. He's like, dude. Sure. I just listened to your episode about whoever and
Typhoid Mary, and here's some thoughts. And so he's very invested in the show. Give notes, Matt. Give notes.
Yeah. So Matt, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? And,
Matt, let me ask you before you do that. Do you ever correct us? You ever say, I don't know what he was talking about, Typhoid Mary? She infected 250 people, not 187 people. Are you that guy?
Fact check.
Only a couple of times that I can recall. One just recently, there was a quote that I think you guys attributed to someone that was incorrect. And I'm forgetting what the quote was.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, but I felt the need to correct that. But I did that over dinner. I didn't make a phone call. So.
And you realize when you're correcting it, it's already out.
That's right.
If you want to take the opportunity to correct anything we've ever said, this is the time to do it.
No, you guys are awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we need a QA staff or a better QA staff than.
No, you don't need anything. No, y'all are all good.
Well, let me just say before you introduce yourself, Matt, that I love drumming. A couple of years ago, I decided I was going to take up drumming, and I didn't. But I bought the sticks, and I bought a practice pad. That was all the money I was willing to shell out because I know there could be a money pit getting into it. I haven't done that, but there's still time for me.
Yeah. But
I've never really spent time with any drummers before, and I have. At some point in this podcast, maybe at the end, I have 6 questions that I've always wanted to ask a drummer. So we'll save those for the end.
Excellent.
But there's 6 questions that I've always wanted to know and never known who to ask.
No, I'm your boy. Let's save some time to do that.
All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. When did you start drumming, Matt?
Before I was 10 years old. My older brother played the drums, and my parents bought him a drum kit, and also called a set. And he stopped playing, so I inherited it. And it was kind of a crappy kit. I got my first real kit when I was 13. So I started playing kind of in earnest and all the time when I was around 13.
Do you just add things to the kit as you get older? Or do you get better kits, or how does that work?
That's funny. So when I started drumming a lot, I was listening to Rush. I was listening to Genesis, and both Phil Collins and Neil Peart both use huge kits. So I added all kinds of stuff to my kit that I bought initially. I've scaled it way down. I don't do any of that anymore. My kit right now is just a really kind of sort of essentials kind of 5-piece kit, standard drum kit. But yeah, I had all kinds of stuff at one point.
Is the cowbell essential?
I don't have one currently. So I guess
it might be number 6. Like if you were to add one more thing, since you have what are the 5 essentials of a drum kit?
Well, it's the drums themselves. It's a snare drum, it's a bass drum, and then usually 3 tom-toms.
Oh, so you're not even counting cymbals.
You don't count cymbals. You don't count pedals or any of that stuff, or percussion or anything like that. That's usually where you start, and then, then it's personal preference after that.
Learned something already.
There you go.
All right, let's hang. That was Dirt Nap City, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. So today we are going to kind of do a little bit of a different format. So with Matt being a drummer, he's got a strong opinion on rock and roll. And for those of you that don't know, Alex and I attended the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2 or 3 years ago. Had a great time, toured the whole thing, did some episodes about Is Rock and Roll Dead? We've talked about several rockers, including John Lennon on this show, including Bob Marley at, Rock and Roll Tangential. But today, Matt is going to take us through a guided tour of 3 of the best rock and roll drummers in history of the world.
4.
Oh, okay. There's a bonus. There's a bonus.
It's 4. Mm-hmm.
Now,
They're all dead, though.
They're dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're interesting because they play the drums really well in some bands that you probably knew. I have a strong opinion about one of them, and I think Alex, you might as well, about a same one or maybe a different one. But I think there's going to be some lively debate about who the best drummer ever was. So, Matt, can you kind of introduce us to the ones you've selected as your finals, or whatever format you want to go with? If you want to talk about one at a time, or if you want to just start it up, tell us how we're going to do this.
Yeah, I thought we would do one at a time. There are 4 drummers. 3 of them are very well known, like number 1, 2, and 4, I think, in the Rolling Stone list of 100 top drummers. The other one that I'm going to end with is number 59, I think, which is an absolute travesty, and shows the worth of that particular list. But so I was just going to work through them one at a time. You'll recognize the first 3, and then we'll go to number 4. And I think there's a good segue from those 3 into this 4th guy. So you want me to jump in?
Yeah, I do. And I guess just real quick, just so we understand, obviously you said this was number 1, 2, and 4 on Rolling Stone's pick, which, they know some stuff about music and rock and roll.
Yep.
For you picked, you didn't pick number 3. You went against their thing, and then you picked number 59 in this list.
Yep.
What is your criteria?
Well, so numbers 1 and 2, and I'll just cut to the chase. That's John Bonham and Keith Moon. John Bonham from Led Zeppelin, Keith Moon from 2. There's really not a lot of debate about, some who is the greatest drummer, or let's say the top 5 drummers. Keith Moon and John Bonham are always in that list. Neil Peart is number 4, and he's also on. We're going to talk about him today. Universal consensus that he's one of the greatest drummers. So, but they're also really interesting fellows in their own right, which is why I brought them on. Or why I added them to the list. They're kind of the drummers that most rock and roll historians or folks that listen to a lot of rock and roll would recognize and would, if they listen to the drums at all, would kind of consider to be some of the greatest drummers. So that was really all. That's all it was. I have a list of, 10 or 20 other drummers that are incredible. But I thought we would stick with certainly ones that are dead, but also ones that are interesting and ones that people would recognize. Right.
That is a requirement.
Was number 3 alive or just not your cup of tea?
I can't remember who's number 3, to tell you the truth. Don't remember. But
that's like whenever Kelly and I talk about guitar players, inevitably I'll bring up Yngwie Malmsteen who is technically like a great guitar player, but nobody wants to listen to it because it's not very pleasing to the ear, and nobody could duplicate it.
That sounds like our podcast, Alex.
Right.
Technically, it's great, but
not very accessible.
By the way, I just got on RollingStone.com. Ginger Baker is number 3 according to Rolling Stone.
Okay.
So there you go.
Yeah. Well, so I was prepared to talk about him. We can do it now if you want. I am not a huge Ginger Baker fan. And I was just listening to him this morning on the way here to remind myself why I'm not. Technically, he is a great drummer, but I absolutely hate the way his drums sound. They are super, he tunes his drums super tightly, like a jazz drummer. But the way that they were recorded, to me, it just does not sound good to my ear. It's kind of tinny and flat and very different than Bonham, certainly, and definitely very different than Neil Peart. And so, and I'm also not a huge Cream fan. So that's the whole, part of it. It's like, well, do you like their music and do you like their drummer, right? A lot of people believe Ginger Baker was the greatest drummer of all time. First guy to use a double bass drum kit, like extensively. But frankly, John Bonham did more with one bass drum than Ginger Baker could do with 2. So I'm just not a huge Ginger Baker fan, as you can tell.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I always thought that was like a producer's choice, but I guess it's true that the drummer, like Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers, I know when their albums sound different depending on who produced those records, but I guess ultimately it's his choice on how he wants his drums to sound, right?
It is. It's a great point. The engineer, the mixer, whoever, has, basically control over how everything sounds, including the drums. But the great drummers knew the sound that they wanted, and they got it no matter what. And again, to me, just Ginger Baker's sound, it doesn't sound good to my ear. It must to many other people's ears, but to mine, it just doesn't. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with your first one. Who do you want to Who do you want to cue up first?
Well, let's go to Keith Moon. Okay. So Keith Moon, drummer for The Who, obviously number 2 on the list. Moon. Awesome drummer. He's born in 1946 in Wembley, Middlesex, England. Died at 32 years old. Died way too young in 1978 in Mayfair, London, in England. He was a super complicated guy. Let's talk about his drumming first. Very unique drummer. This is a thing that I wanted to tell you all, is that the greatest drummers are very difficult to replicate, right? Like drummers like myself will put headphones on and play a song and try and play to, some drummer. Keith Moon is the hardest drummer, in my opinion, to replicate. He had a super unique style. Even the way when you watch him, it looks like his arms are kind of flying. They called it skiing. His arms ski across the drums. It doesn't look like he's even hitting the drums, but he's actually a very powerful drummer. He's hitting the drums really, really hard. But the other thing about him was that he put, and I might use some terms that we might have to describe, but he put like cymbal crashes and tom-tom hits and other things and drum fills, like a roll or something. He would put them at very odd places in the song. A lot of times a straight 4/4 drum, piece is like you're hitting the snare on 2, the snare on 4, and you're hitting a crash on the next one. He did things very, very differently and just crazy stuff that nobody really understood or has ever really been able to do.
It's interesting you're talking about the visual aspect of watching somebody play.
Yeah.
Do you find that when you watch a video of somebody playing, does that fill in the blanks for you as opposed to when you've just heard it?
Absolutely.
Like if you never saw the Who perform, would you have any idea that he skied across the drums?
I would
or does
not.
that just help you when you see them?
No.
Or does it make it harder to?
Well, I don't know whether it actually in Keith Moon's instance, it doesn't really make sense when you watch him. It's it's a very strange deal. But I love watching drummers. I've seen, as Kelly knows and as Kelly has, we've seen a ton of live music, and I always watch the drummer. I take photos of the drummer. I video. I love to watch how a drummer actually plays. So anyway, he was just very unique in very many regards. Yeah, so go ahead and play this. This is a very popular clip, but it demonstrates what he's all about.
That little hi-hat ride at the end, that's awesome.
Yeah, with the bass, yeah.
So that's a great selection. Actually, that song always reminds me of my dad, because I remember very rarely driving in the car with him, not that we rarely did that, but he was singing along to it. And I very rarely ever saw him sing along to a song, but he sang along to that song. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I love The Who. It's one of my favorite bands. And I went to their farewell concert in 1988 at the Astrodome. Of course, they've been playing pretty steadily for the past 40 years, but that was their farewell show in 1988. Right. And it was pretty awesome.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Keith Moon wasn't there.
No.
Yeah. So that clip. I mean, I've never critically listened to the drums on that part. But tell us what was going on, because I heard a lot, but I want to hear what you think, Matt.
There's several parts of that song where there's that synthesizer is playing, and then at the beginning, and then in the middle, and then they lead to this sort of crescendo. Maybe is the word at the end of that sort of synthesizer part, and he just smashes them. He's hitting this drum so hard. It's basically a drum solo, which is interesting because he hated drum solos. Keith Moon did not play drum solos. He hated them. You have a very hard time finding them. He wouldn't play them, which is funny because he basically solos almost the entire song. In a lot of the songs that he plays, because he doesn't sit back and play like I was saying. He's just all over the place all the time, hitting a crash cymbal, doing a fill, doing this at any given time in songs. I thought it was really ironic that he didn't like to do drum solos, but I just think that's just a classic and perfect drum part.
And when you listen to it closely, and you really are listening for the drums, you're just like, wow, I didn't realize what all was going on. You always groove to it, but when you actually say, wow, there's all these little fills, and there's that little cymbal bit at the end, and the way the synthesizer is playing, and the da-da-da-da, that kind of staccato snare comes in, it feels like almost like gunfire, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's getting faster and faster. Yeah, I'm getting chills, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
And it's not a complicated part. I mean, it's single stroke rolls, really. There's no double stroke rolls or anything. He's just hitting them as hard as he can. And it's just perfect.
Now, he obviously, like you said, he passed away 50 years ago. The Who has gone on to play years without him. You say those parts are fairly easy where they can the whoever is drumming for the Who now is doing the exact same part? Are they not doing it as well? Can you tell it's not Keith Moon? What does that feel like to listen to them now?
Well, so the two main drummers that took his place, if you will, one was Kenny Jones from the Faces, like a very, very popular drummer in England in the same time period, and then Simon Phillips, another tremendous drummer, and they have really, in my opinion, not tried to replicate, but have kind of put their own kind of flavor to the songs. I think for one reason, again, because it's very difficult to do what Keith Moon was doing, and I think almost out of respect for Keith Moon, they just did their own thing.
That's cool.
The song structures are all the same and whatnot, but they don't really try to do that, and none of them can.
They retired his part.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, we will never have another. When Alex, when I boot you off the show, we'll never have anybody do the hello part at the beginning like you do, out of respect.
You retire it. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it'll be you'll get your number and you'll get your pension plan and your sticker, and then I'll get a younger, cuter girl.
Yeah, always works.
So I want to also just mention real quick. I mentioned that song and my dad. I also remember the first time I ever became aware of Keith Moon, and that was a friend of mine was playing, I think it was either a Roger Daltrey or a Pete Townsend solo record called Under a Raging Moon. And I didn't understand I don't know whose that was. I'll look that up real quick. But I didn't understand that it was a double meaning, right? It was a solo record, but it was like a tribute to Keith Moon. You familiar with what I'm talking about?
I'm not.
Let me look it up real quick.
What year did you say he died? 74?
8. Yeah, 78.
Under a Raging Moon was a Roger Daltrey solo album that came out in like the mid 80s. So you remember that song After the Fire? After the fire still burns. The heart grows older but never ever learns.
Yeah.
The memories smolder. That was on Under a Raging Moon.
Okay. Gotcha.
Anyway. I like Roger Daltrey. I like The Who as well. But I also heard that, Keith Moon, you said he was a complicated person. He was a pretty hard-living guy, right? He kind of lived that rock and roll lifestyle from what I understand.
Very much so, yeah. I think he was, by all accounts, just kind of crazy. I have a couple of quotes here. It's like his secondary school art teacher said, retarded artistically, idiotic in other respects, which is great.
I think I saw a review of Dirt Nap City that said that as well. But
yeah, it's
really,
Pilates episode.
It's amazing. It's amazing how many parallels there are. But you got another quote for us, Matt?
Yeah, his another music teacher said, has great ability but must guard against tendency to show off, and that was the thing. He was a showman. He demanded attention. And I know we got to move on, but he was also known for tearing up his drum kit after every show. He would throw his drums everywhere, kick his drum kit over, and tear stuff up. But he also was really well known for blowing up toilets in hotel rooms with cherry bombs and throwing TV sets out of windows into hotel swimming pools. They got kicked out of so many hotels. Hotel chains would not let the Who come to their hotels anymore. He was just a really wild character.
I wonder if he did all that before they had money too. Can you destroy your drum kit every night if you don't have money?
So actually, his drum kits survived from night to night. They would have to put new heads and things on them, but the drums themselves survived. The toilets, not so much. But
yeah,
and I often wondered about that. But I think he had. I don't know. They were making boatloads of money, right, when they're touring and when the Who was huge. So somehow they made it work, but I've always wondered how the hell they paid for all that.
But in the early days, it was like, no, sorry, Keith, you're not getting a new drum kit because you blew up the toilet. If you don't blow up the toilet, you can have a new kick drum. But if you do, it's going to be duct tape. Mister.
Yeah. So that's Keith Moon. Let's move on. Okay, so let's move on to John Bonham, drummer for Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Largely considered the greatest drummer of all time. Very different kind of drummer. He was a power drummer. I mean, if you listen to Led Zeppelin, right? The drums are way up front in their mix, but he was just sort of the king of power drumming.
I love Led Zeppelin, and I love the way that they're mixed. That's one of my favorite things about Led Zeppelin music is how that drum is right up front. I just think it's so cool. Kelly's not as big of a Zeppelin fan as I am, but I really love Led Zeppelin.
Well, it's funny too because 3 of the 4 drummers that I chose are drummers in 3-piece bands. So that's one. If you think about it, Who's a 3-piece band? Roger Daltrey didn't play an instrument, nor did Robert Plant, right? So the drum and the drums and the bass have to fill space that is typically filled by another guitar or a keyboard or something, right? So the drummer has got to be mixed up front, and for Zeppelin, that certainly is the case. You know what I mean?
I've heard Pete Townsend say that Roger Daltrey didn't do anything in the band. He said, well, he sang, but he wasn't musical.
Right.
He was just so dismissive of him. He just says he doesn't really do anything. He just stands there and sings.
He was handsome.
He's not musical.
He was very handsome, though. He's much better looking than Pete Townsend.
Yeah.
It's just funny because you think of him as being the front man, but if you listen to Pete Townsend, he's useless.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So more about Bonham. I mean, he was actually criticized early in his career for being a plodding, sort of loud and loud drummer that didn't swing, like in quotes. They were totally wrong about that. Clapton actually said that about him and compared him to Ginger Baker, who he said Ginger Baker's a true musician. He's a composer, a musician, and so forth. And all of that ended up being incredibly wrong over time, because John
Cream
Bonham
bias.
Yeah, because John Bonham does swing, but he can also play just a solid backbeat. But he always played exactly what he needed to play. I mean, if you think about it, like other than Moby Dick, right, which is their song where Bonham plays like a 10-minute drum solo or whatever, and he did play drum solos, a huge part of their live shows. Yeah. But he really played he kind of kept it together. He kept it sort of between the lines. He played exactly what needed to be played. He just played it incredibly well and sort of incredibly loudly. He was known as being very a perfectionist about how his drums sounded. He was very prepared. His drums were always tuned perfectly, so he was like super easy to work with in the studio because he was always ready. Technically, there just really is no match for him. And so maybe we cut to the clip here, which is the clip that I brought is actually the first song on their first record. It's like,
what year did he die?
He died. Okay, yeah, I didn't tell you this. He was born in 1948 in England, and he died in 1980. Again, 32 years old, same as Keith Moon.
And mm-hmm. I just made the connection here, at least for the Who, Rush, and Zeppelin. All of their drummers died first.
That's right.
Yeah, and the remaining band members are actually still alive, I think, for the most part, right? I mean,
John. I think John Entwistle died. The bass player for the Who, I think he died. But
okay.
Anyway,
yeah, he did.
Yeah. But the drummers all died way before anybody else. I mean, Peart died in 2010, so
yeah. Just a quick intro. I mean, this is like the first song on their first record. It's like, here I am, and nobody had heard anything like this. And I wanted to specifically
Led Zeppelin 1.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to point out that listen to the bass drum if you can, because he did. And I mentioned this earlier when talking about Ginger Baker. He did stuff with one bass drum that a lot of people cannot do with two, and he's just it's just unbelievable what he can do with his foot, with his right foot. So go ahead and cue that up.
Yeah, here's some little tricky things going on there, like little extra beats going on.
Yeah. Well, that's Kelly's cowbell too.
Anyway, they're kind of hidden in there. This is sort of subtle if you don't know what to listen to. But so again, you kind of have to kind of sit down and listen to it and kind of understand what can be done with one bass pedal versus two. And Neil Peart, one of the best examples of what a guy can do. He basically can do a drum roll with the bass, with his bass drums, right?
That's crazy.
As fast as anybody. Yeah.
You grew up in South Texas, Victoria, right, for the most part? Or
no, I mean, I grew up in Houston, the suburbs of Houston, Cypress.
Okay. So you remember? Do you remember Dana Steele on 101 KLOL? She was a DJ.
Vaguely, but yeah, I do.
So she had a show. She had a show on. It was on like Thursday nights at 11 p.m. and it was called For Headphones Only. And I
remember that.
Yeah, and I can remember listening to a few songs, and the encouragement was to listen to it in headphones and really like get a deeper meaning of it. And what you just said about listening to the drums on that, it was kind of. I remember actually the very first time I ever heard Changes by Yes. Ding, 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 ding. You know that intro of that song? Yeah. And I listened to it in headphones, and I did not think I hated Owner of a Lonely Heart. Thought it was a horrible song. Overplayed at the time, right? And it was just like, can't stand that. Or Roundabout. Blah. But when I listen to Changes in my headphones, wow. And now listening to I don't even like Good Times, Bad Times, but hearing that drum in the headphones just now, okay, I'm going to give it another listen.
Yeah. No, you should do that.
Music's always better with headphones.
Yeah. I guess so. I don't maybe to try to move on here. He was also very self-destructive. I mean, he died. It is said that he drank 16 shots of vodka at breakfast the day that he died, ended up drinking like 40 shots of vodka over the day, and he went to bed and didn't wake up, which is kind of the same thing that happened with Keith Moon, slightly different circumstances, but they were both very self-destructive. And but we had him for some period of time, and he left this incredible mark on music. And
now his son is quite an accomplished drummer, right?
Yeah, Jason Bonham, for sure. Yeah,
and so is he? What do you think of his drumming?
I mean, he has tried to replicate again his father's drumming, and he does a great job doing that. I don't listen to a lot of his stuff outside of that. I really couldn't tell you. Yeah.
So also, for those of you who haven't heard it, if you're interested in the origin of the name Led Zeppelin, you could listen to our Zeppelin episode about Count von Zeppelin. Do you remember that story, Alex? How Led Zeppelin got their name?
Yeah, they said this will go over like a Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, I think it was. Maybe Jimmy Page had talked about forming a band with Entwistle, or who's bassist?
Yeah. Entwistle.
Yeah.
So that'll go over like a.
Yeah, it was one.
I think it was Entwistle that said it.
No, I think it was. Who's the guy that sings Layla?
Eric Clapton.
I think it was Eric Clapton said that that'll go over like a Led Zeppelin. And
yeah.
Oh no. It was like a lead balloon, and they changed it to Led Zeppelin. So there you go. Who you got next?
Neil Peart.
Oh, now this is my favorite. This is the one I want to be.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's a perfect example of the accessibility that you were talking about, though. That's not something that your garage band's going to cover, you know?
Not at all. But that's a really good point. So one thing about Neil Peart was that he was super, super precise. He wrote all of his drum parts out. He played them exactly the same on the record as he played in every live show. Keith Moon, total opposite. But what that has done is it allowed a lot of drummers to, try and figure it out. You can find his music. It's, there's drum music out there. It's sort of differently written than like guitar music and so forth, but it's out there. And drummers, have tried to duplicate it. And his music, his drumming actually is a little bit more, it is more accessible and able to be duplicated or replicated by a drummer.
Because it's documented?
Because it's documented, and because his stuff is, again, it's planned out. It's sort of precise. So the drummer has to be technically incredible to be able to do it. But there are a lot of drummers out there that can do it. Tom Sawyer, for instance, right? Probably his most famous drum song, right? Well, maybe their most famous song for that matter. I mean, I can play that. Whereas half of the stuff that he plays on, like that stuff that we just played right there, I can't really do that. I can't play that. I could practice it for a long time and probably still not get it down. It's just too technically demanding for most drummers. But anyway,
and even if you could, you couldn't find a bass player that could do that, or guitar. I mean, it's like, so what? What are you going to do that with that?
Yeah,
it's all weird time signatures as well, right?
Yeah,
well, that too.
Yeah.
I mean, that too. But that can all be written out too, right? I mean, drum music, just same as any. You just write down the time signature, but that doesn't mean that somebody can actually pull it off. But
right. It's all counterintuitive. Yeah.
So
that's cool.
I saw a little YouTube clip about, so Rush is touring currently. Alex and I are actually going to see Rush with AW, Al from Austin, in September. No
way.
Where are we going?
San Antonio, I think.
Or Fort Worth, one of the two. Anyway, I saw a little clip about their new drummer. So their new drummer is a woman. And she is going to be on tour with them. And Geddy Lee was talking about, he gave her, maybe it was something that had been written by Neil, like the drum part, or played it for her. And it was a very difficult time signature change and a bunch of stuff. And she played it the first time. And he was like, she's our drummer. Like she got it.
So this is news to me. I think I had heard that they were touring, and I remember thinking, who the heck's their drummer? So I'll have to look into this, but I don't. I have a feeling I know who that drummer is, but I forget her name. But
she has kind of a middle Eastern European name, I think.
Yep. I think I know who you're talking about. But But okay, so he was a super interesting guy, as you know, right? He wrote the lyrics for all the Rush songs. His themes were all over the place: sci-fi, fantasy. He was a huge fan of Ayn Rand, on and on. And so he wrote a number of books. And then when he became ill. He took like a 55,000-mile motorcycle trip across Canada and the United States, and he documented that in a book. And
that was actually before he got ill. That was when his wife and his daughter died within a year of each other, and that trip was his sort of therapy for getting away from all that.
That's right.
I'm gonna just jump in and say two things. I have not read Neil Peart's biography or autobiography, but if you haven't read the one by Geddy Lee, which Alex, I think you gave me for Christmas 2 years ago or three, it's called My Effin' Life. It's amazing. It talks a lot about that time when basically they packed up from their last show on a tour and they didn't see Neil for 2 or 3 years or something like that. Basically, he disappeared, and he would phone in every so often and say, I'm safe. I'm in West Texas, Big Bend or whatever, and I'm on my way to here. But he wasn't. This is before really cell phones and GPS, and you couldn't, where you could share your location with everybody. So they were never quite sure where he was, if he was okay. But he did that motorcycle trip across the country. And the beautiful thing, and Canada, the beautiful thing I think for him was he wasn't famous enough looking. He's famous as a drummer, but most people didn't know what he looked like. And so he was pretty anonymous during that whole thing, is what I said. And then the new drummer is named Annika Niles, or Nils, Nilles. She is German, and she actually was discovered by being drumming on YouTube. So there you go.
That's not who I was thinking of, but I'll check it out for sure. Because anybody that is asked to replace Neil Peart has got to be freaking awesome.
Well, and I think there's a lot of interviews about it with both Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee, and both of them say she wasn't asked to replace him. She was asked to kind of fill in for him, but he's irreplaceable. That sounds cliche, but they didn't expect her to play exactly what he did, but they did expect her to be able to play the parts that they needed. Yeah. So I've watched a lot of videos.
You can imagine though, if she's not great, she's going to hear on social media, and people are going to be like, "Why did you even go on tour with this person who can't?" Yeah, people are going to be rough on her.
I think she is. I think she's awesome. Great. Yeah. We'll find out.
Incredible.
We'll find out in September
in
San Antonio or Fort Worth, wherever it is.
All right, so we ready to move on to the last drummer and then get to the 6 questions?
Yeah.
The burning questions. So the last one is somebody you will not have heard of. And what was he, number 55 on Rolling Stone's list? But his name is Jim Gordon, born in L.A. in 1945, died in California, Vacaville, California, in a mental a prison, died in prison. We'll get to that at 78 years old. He was arguably the most recorded drummer of all time, but was also technically incredible. And let me tell you who he played with. This is a partial list, okay? Beach Boys, Monkees, The Muppets, George Harrison, Frank Zappa, Eric Clapton, Tom Petty, Jackson Browne, Harry Nilsson, Joe Cocker, CSN, Buffalo Springfield, The Byrds, Alice Cooper, Tom Waits, Randy Newman, Mama Cass Elliot, Hall & Oates, Steely Dan, Leon Russell, Judy Collins, Cher, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Dave Mason, Traffic, Helen Reddy. But he also played with B.B. King, John Lee Hooker, Buddy Guy. He played with Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard, Glenn Campbell, Charlie Daniels, John Denver, Joan Baez, Gordon Lightfoot, Carole King, Donovan, Everly Brothers, Neil Diamond, Yoko Ono, Nancy Sinatra, and that's like partial list. Unbelievable.
You had me at the Muppets.
I know. That's so cool.
He was animal.
So would you call him a studio drummer? Is that the term you would use for someone like that?
Yeah. He played one name that I didn't mention here. I mentioned some of the guys, but he was in Derek and the Dominoes. He was their drummer. Okay. Now they only put out one record, but they toured. But that's like the only band he really played in, right? He was part of what was called the Wrecking Crew, which was a group. I don't know if either of you have heard of that, but that was a group of studio musicians in L.A. for a period of time. That included Glenn Campbell was actually part of that. A couple of other drummers, Andy Newmark, another incredible drummer, several guitarists who you would have heard of, et cetera, et cetera. But it was a group of session musicians. But he was just the most sought-after drummer. And the reason is he could do everything, and he could do it well. He's known for being able to quickly listen and be able to play a drum part for any style, any genre, any tempo, anything. He would just immediately be able to play exactly what needed to be played. There's a term I haven't used yet today. It's called, for drummers, it's called in the pocket. The drummer, and this is kind of unlike how Neil Peart plays, but a drummer that is supposed to sort of play around the vocals, around the guitar. You don't want to hear the drummer. You want to hear the guitar and the vocals. The bass and the drummer need to be the rhythm section, of course, but they want to be playing. They want to fit in the pocket of the rest of the musicians. It's a term that's used, and he was known as the quintessential in the pocket guy. Could just do anything, but technically incredible as well. And when he was allowed to sort of swing or to do a little bit, to get out there a little bit, he was able to do it. And so it was interesting because it was difficult for me to find a clip where you could really hear what he was doing, because he's just
in the pocket.
He's in the pocket. He's just playing, not doing anything crazy. But in this song, you can sort of hear him. There's a couple others I could have played, like Layla, the song Layla, at the end of Layla, or at the end of one of my favorite songs, Let It Rain by Eric Clapton. He's really allowed to sort of get out there. And there's so much going on at the end of Let It Rain. You have to kind of listen hard, but he's freaking going for it at the end of that song. But this song just sort of shows how clean and perfect he can play. So go ahead. You want to cue that up?
Sorrows and joys, and the thing that disturbs you is only the sound of the love spark of high heel boys. The percentage of playing is too high priced, while you're living beyond all your means. And the man in the suit has just bought a new car from the properties made on your greens. But today you just swear that the man was shot dead by a gun that didn't make any noise. But it wasn't the bullet that laid him to rest, was the love spark of high heel boys. High heel boys.
Yeah, it's he was just sort of considered the perfect drummer. I mean, all those people would not have selected him to play on their records if he, wasn't as versatile as you could be. So,
But he was by Rolling Stone, like you said, number 55 or 59 or something like that.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. But I recognize these things are subjective, but.
So you said he took a tragic turn somehow.
He did, yeah. So he was I think, considered to be an undiagnosed schizophrenic, maybe even bipolar disorder. He started being very, very, he used a lot of drugs and drank, started being very unreliable. He's losing gigs. But ultimately, voices in his head told him to kill his mother, and he killed his mother with a hammer and went to prison, and that's where he died just, I think, 2023, did I say? Just a few years ago, he died.
Wow.
And he was up for parole multiple times, but he was not well. So it's
tragic.
super tragic. But incredible.
What's his name again? John?
Jim Gordon.
Jim Gordon. Okay.
Jim Gordon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's kind of what I have. So those are the four drummers.
wow.
Well, that was really interesting. I love that, and I love that you threw one in there that we hadn't heard of. But that was a great clip that you played too, because you could just see and your explanation of being in the pocket. That song really exemplifies that. It was that's really a tight song.
Very, very tight. Yeah, it's a great song. 8 minutes long.
So, like I said, there's some questions that I have about drumming because I'm fascinated with drumming. I watch Drumeo all the time. The YouTube channel Drumeo.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with drummers, but I don't really know any drummers, and had never really gotten. My sense is that if you corner a drummer, they could talk about drumming all day long. Right? Like you like to talk about drumming, right?
I do. I love to talk. I study drummers. I mean, I have so much useless information in my brain, you know.
But the thing is, you guys all talk to each other. So nobody asks you the stupid questions. I'm going to ask you some questions that maybe a non-drummer would ask that no real. It's like somebody asking an actor, how do you all memorize all your lines? It's like that's not part of the craft, but here we go.
All right.
Question number 1. Are all stools the same, or are there really good stools and really bad stools?
Well, first of all,
that's a serious question, because I think, well, if you're a millionaire drummer that can have any stool you want, I bet you have it all, but it's still just a stool, right?
Yeah.
Like, are all stools interchangeable? Are there really good ones?
Well, first,
are there ones with padding?
Yeah.
Like, tell me about.
I had a
stools.
really good one this morning. Just so you know,
I knew, and there it is.
Okay,
there
well,
it is.
the
stool sample.
I'm gonna shut that down right now. They're actually called thrones, drum thrones, right?
Really?
Yeah, they are.
I never knew.
So I don't know if you go on music, Guitar Center and look for them, or whether they're called thrones, but it's kind of what we call them.
No, when Take took drum lessons, I learned that it was called a throne. Yeah,
it's so pompous. But
It really is. Yeah, right. It's like totally. Yeah, it's us. But of course, they differ. Like, I have 2, and one of them actually has not armrest, but a back. Right. Most of them are just a stool. Right, which is why you call them.
I'm guessing the teenagers don't use the ones with the back.
No, that's for the geriatric
for your
drummer.
sciatica.
Yeah. But you see guys sitting on on a folding chair, right? But it does help for it to be padded. It helps for it to swivel, right? It swivels. That's the thing that's big, right? You got to be able to swivel, because you're, especially if you're playing a Neil Peart kit, you got to be able to get from your tiny little timbales over here all the way, 180 degrees over to your 20-inch tom-tom floor on the floor, So, all right.
So my second question is, I used to really love to watch rock drummers and everything, but then sometimes you go to a show and maybe it wasn't a rock show, or maybe it was a lighter rock show, and I'd always feel bad when the drummer would bust out the brushes. I always feel like I didn't become a drummer to play with the brushes.
Oh, dude!
But the brushes are like, a background of a light rock song
or jazz.
Like that. How do drummers feel
I always
about
think of jazz?
Or jazz, right?
Yeah.
How do drummers feel about brushes?
Well, I can tell you how I feel about them. I hate them. I hate playing with brushes. And there was a musician in Victoria that I lived who just played covers and whatever. He wanted me to play with him, and he wanted me to play a snare drum with brushes. And I was like, I think I did it once. And I'm like, I can't do this. Yeah. Like, I'm a loud drummer. I'm not. And here's the other thing is that I think you have to be a really good drummer to be able to use brushes, and I could never figure it out. I'm just pounding them as hard as I can to try and get the same sound I get out of sticks. But it is a very important tool for jazz drummers and so forth. So to be a great drummer, you need to be able to use sticks and brushes. So,
yeah. When I watch Drumeo, I think it's cool that they have all different types of drummers on there. And one of the guys that I like that's on there sometimes is this guy, Jonathan Sugarfoot Moffett. He was Michael Jackson's drummer.
Okay.
And he plays, he'll show you like a Michael Jackson song, and like Kelly was saying earlier, it might be a song that you've overlooked before. You'd be like, wow, that has a really complex drum part. I'd never realized, like Billie Jean or something like that. What's a popular song where the drumming is amazing and we might not catch it? We might not have heard that.
A song that comes to mind is Rosanna by
Toto.
Toto?
Yeah, and one of the greatest drummers of all time is Jeff Porcaro, who you guys mentioned on one of your podcasts a long time ago.
Steely Dan?
He was Steely Dan among other bands, but he was a session guy. But I think you mentioned him in a list of people who earn the most royalties because he plays on so many popular songs. But the drumming to
did he die?
He did die. He died tragically, not self-destructive, but yeah, he died. He died too young too. But the drums on Rosanna are largely considered one of the greatest drum parts ever. It's called a shuffle, is what it's called, but you have to really listen hard to catch what he's doing. It's an incredibly difficult drum part, but it doesn't...
That's exactly what I was looking for. I'll check that out because I hate that song.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely check that out later.
I need to add to that real quick. So for years, I worked for a event company, live staging company, and we did, live events. And our sound guy would set up these very large sound systems with, 8, 10 cabinets in the room. And, it was corporate stuff, so they weren't super loud. But he would always play Rosanna for sound check. His name was David Hebner. And David would always play Rosanna. And he said and he was a musician actually. And he said it was because there's quiet parts, there's loud parts, like quite a year since you went away, da 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 da, and he said that would help him kind of see if you could hear a whisper, but also not overdrive the other parts. And it had a lot of range. He said it was the perfect sound guy's test song. So there you go.
Interesting.
That's great to know.
Interesting.
What's a good song that's ruined by bad drumming or a bad drum part?
Oh, We Will Rock You by Queen.
Whoa. Man, that's a tough one, Alex. I'm going to have to...
Like you were mentioning Jim Baker, how you just couldn't listen to him because, are those songs good, but it ruins it? Like the drumming ruins it for you?
For me, it does, but I'm trying to think about... I don't know. I wish I could come up with an answer for you, but I don't. Maybe you want to come to me before we end this podcast, but I can't think of one.
Or you can email us at not@dirtnobcity.com.
Yeah. Tell us your least favorite drum part in a song, and you might get a sticker.
There you go.
What is it? And my fifth question is funny because it has to do with the pocket. Okay. What does it feel like to be in the pocket? It must feel like euphoric, like to just be there and just be keeping time. Is that just a great feeling? Is that what you live for as a drummer?
Yes, but there's more to it than that. So,
or is it the hookers and cocaine?
So, I have told many people that some of the finest moments of my life, really just the best moments, are playing live music in front of an audience. And Kelly knows the bass player in the band that I played with for many years in Victoria. His name is Dan. And but when he and I would click and have, with the rhythm section playing to one of the songs that we played, the feeling is really unlike any other, no doubt. So I can feel it. I mean, I can sense it right now, what it feels like. So it's an incredible feeling just to make music, really, but specifically for a drummer, it's a bit unique. But no, it's an incredible feeling that's hard for anybody to really understand unless they were to do it.
Yeah, that's cool. And my sixth question is, what about Ringo? It seems to be such a divisive person to talk to drummers about. Because I think for a long time he didn't get his due, and then there was like a renaissance of people talking about him. What's your feeling on Ringo?
He's an awesome drummer, one of the greatest ever, and I understand why people feel that way. I'm not sure if I've verified this, but apparently or supposedly somebody asked either John or Paul, whether Ringo was the greatest drummer in the world, and they said he's not even the greatest drummer in the band, because Paul McCartney and John Lennon both played drums and were incredible. They played bass, guitar, piano, and drums. They were incredible musicians. But the thing, and I've said this a couple of times in the podcast, is that the great drummers cannot be replicated, and Ringo is probably the prime example of that. You can't get his sound, and you can't. He was very. His style was very, very unique, And it's just, there's something about it that is just different than every other drummer ever. And then his parts were perfect for every song. He just knew what to do. Technically, he's not the greatest drummer. You don't hear him do a double stroke roll ever. He played one solo in his entire career on a Beatles record, and that was in the end. He couldn't
sit in for Rush if he wanted to.
Could not. But I was just recently, I've listened to so many podcasts prepping for this and just getting ready, but I listened to a hour-long podcast about what makes Ringo Ringo, and they played just song after song after song about that demonstrated the kind of things that I just said. He was just a very unique player, and nobody like him at all. No.
I think of Come Together. Like, I don't even like that song that much. It's not one of my favorite Beatles songs, but I love the drum part in it.
Yeah.
Those little rolls.
Yeah, well, listen to the end, the song The End, which is, I think, the last song on the last record they played. Yeah, yep. And there's he plays a drum solo at the end. It's just it's super simple if you break it down and put it on paper, but it's a great solo.
So right before that solo on the end, or maybe it's right after, there is a guitar part, and a lot of people don't know this, which I think is fascinating. And that guitar part is George, Paul, and John each playing part of it, like basically trading licks on it. And if you actually have the Rock Band game with that song on it, you can play. There's a Rock Band, and it has all three. It's like a video of all three of them playing in the background, an animated video. But yeah, that just gives me the chills because I think I can tell who's who based on their styles. And then you're right. The drums in that are that little solo that he does is so cool. It's just I love the end.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Matt. Thanks for humoring my questions there.
Hey, Matt, I gotta say something about Alex that you don't know.
Okay.
A little secret that most people don't know about Alex. Alex, I hope you're okay with me sharing this.
We can always cut it out.
Alex was in a band that played for, I think, about 4 years in that band, and played in front of like crowds of 50.
5 years.
5 years, 50 to 100,000 people at a time. And I'm not lying. That's true. That's a fact.
Tell me more.
Did you not know that?
The University of Texas Longhorn Band.
Got it. Awesome. What instrument?
Did not play drums, though.
Right.
Did not play drums.
Wow. What instrument?
But I like.
I always twirled the baton.
It'd be cool. I played mellophone.
Okay.
What the hell is that?
Yeah. I should know what that is, or maybe I'm being played. I don't know.
No. Mellophone is like a marching French horn.
Got it.
No, he really was. He's played much bigger gigs than you have, Matt. I mean, you're a good drummer and all.
Well, so can we
Cotton Bowl?
Can we end with a couple of jokes?
Please.
Sure.
All right. Okay. Number one. What do you call people that hang out with musicians? Drummers. And number two, what will you never hear a drummer say? Hey, let's play one of my songs.
All right, Matt. Well, thank you for spending the time with us. I hope you had fun. I learned a lot. I will be.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Matt.
Referring to my morning Duke as a throne from now on instead of a stool. And if you haven't already, please contact us, support us on Patreon, and we'll see you next time on Dirt Nap City, the podcast about interesting dead people, including dead drummers.
And in